Okay. Hey, Jacob.
No, I start.
No, you just told me I was supposed to
Hi,
start.
Don. We're live. Keep going.
I want to tell you about some really crazy and wild events.
You? Oh my God, this is going to be so boring.
Okay, well, we're just going to keep going.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love it. And we're filming. We're live. Let's go.
Very well done. Anyways.
So you want to talk about some weird stories?
We've had some crazy stories that have happened at normal events.
Yes.
However, we have photographed some just wild things.
So the whole thing is wild.
Event itself is crazy.
It's weird. It's wild.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yes.
But fun too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right.
And exciting for people to hear about when they don't care about photography either.
This is true.
So,
all right. So we're going to jump right into it?
Yeah, I'm going to have you go first.
Well, I'm actually wearing the first one that I'm going with. So, and we've talked about this in previous weeks because I just got back. Well, no, I did just get back, but you've seen previous ones. Don't cough, don't die. That a group of us photographers photograph basically marketing for these themed cruises.
Right.
And currently, the two we do, it used to be a jazz cruise, and they've opened up other cruises.
Jazz cruise, smooth jazz.
Yeah, that's a lot of jazz. But currently, we're doing Star Trek, the cruise, which is an official licensed cruise by Star Trek, by Paramount, and then an 80s themed rock and roll cruise. Mm-hmm. Not rock and roll, just music cruise.
I was laughing too much earlier. I'm sorry.
Anyway, and we've been doing these now for, I want to say, next year is the 10th anniversary. So wow. 9 years. I've been doing 9 years of Star Trek. 80s is even a little older than that. Mm-hmm. So some of them have been doing even longer. Mm-hmm. But regardless, these are wild and weird and crazy. So these are where there's 11 of us. So there's 5 photographers, 5 videographers, 1 editor, and actually 1 assist, 1 PA. So it's actually 12 of us. And we are on the ship for 2 weeks. This is a completely rented out ship by this company, and they completely retheme the entire ship. Mm-hmm. We're talking they redo signs. They put signs over signs of restaurants become.
Well, it's basically if there was a Comic-Con just for convention just for Star Trek on land, but they put
it on the ship.
Put it on the ship.
But they do stuff that they would never do, especially the Star Trek one, you would never get at a Comic-Con. So I always say this, but the celebs on board also get kind of a say in what they want to do. So usually there's one that's really into yoga. You can do a yoga session with them in the morning on the top deck.
Because they can't go anywhere else either.
Because they can't. Jason Isaacs was on it a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. Malfoy from Harry Potter. He was also in a Star Trek that I've never watched. Sure. And he's really into tennis. So he did a tennis lesson, and this is free, you didn't have to pay anything.
That's
you just go up on the deck during the time, and you were hitting tennis balls with Jason Isaacs. Now, for us, video and photo, that's exactly what we're doing. We are literally just chasing these events. So it's marketing, right? We're getting shots of people hitting tennis balls with Jason Isaacs, doing yoga with so-and-so. Obviously, they still have the kind of traditional convention Comic-Con where they do autographs and photos. Mm-hmm. We don't do that. Another company handles that where it's tucked away on the top floor of the restaurant where no one uses, and they just do their photos, backdrops over there.
Okay.
So we're doing marketing. Right. And maybe a little bit of photo pass sometimes it feels like. Because then we photograph a lot of guests too, because then the company loves that of people woo, and not necessarily with celebrities, just having a time.
Yeah, that's part of... the company wants photos like that to show, hey, look at how much fun they're having. This
could be you. And we work, so we're on board. We are not part of the Royal Caribbean staff. We work for the company, and we're treated, though Royal Caribbean treats us, they see us as a guest, because we are a guest. We stay in guest cabins, but we work pretty much 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. every day. It is not a vacation. No. As you may remember our future previous podcast where... It's not a vacation.
No.
We work all the time. But it is, the stuff we see and get to do is wild and crazy and a little weird. Mm-hmm. I have, so the Star Trek one, the celebrities are very open because they're on the ship So I always say that if you really want a good experience, like they'll sometimes just be sitting at a bar and you could come and just sit next to them and have a conversation. Because when I deal with celebrities and some people, want autographs, I never want a photo or an autograph. I just want to talk like a human being and then maybe tell me a cool story along the way.
Right.
At Star Trek, you finally get that. At a convention, you're waiting in line to get their autograph. They're like, hi, you get 5 seconds. Or a picture, nice to meet you, click, you're done. So here you get actual time with these people, which I think is incredible. And then they do fun games like for, on a cruise, your evening show usually would be like a Broadway show. Well, they don't do that, but usually they'll have like Hollywood Squares with 9 of the actors. And they'll pick guests from the audience and they have to do this. Or they'll do a Family Feud game with sometimes like the Voyager cast versus the Next Generation cast.
That's really fun.
Yeah, so that kind of stuff is super fun to photograph. And then they have a couple of bands on the Star Trek too, some party bands that also play at night. So there's some music and people dancing. There's always parties, drinking, cruise stuff. Many years ago, they don't do it anymore, but they actually would sell excursions with the celebrities. So you'd actually could buy for a higher price. You could go on an excursion with the celebs, and then we used to have to go with them on these
swimming with
dolphins, going in a submarine, going to Monkey Town in Jamaica. Myself and there's an actor named Connor Trenier became very good friends because we got stuck in this place called Monkey Town, where the monkeys would just come stand on your shoulder and steal your hat, take your wallet, that kind of normal,
enjoyable stuff.
And it was so we were both miserable, and we both were like, afterwards we were just like, fuck Monkey Town. And then I had some photos that I took, and he gave me his email address, and so I would email him, and I would literally in the subject write, fuck Monkey Town. And we're still friends. We're not friends, but we see each other every year, and he's just like, Jacob, and how's your wife? So I've become kind of a friend with a couple of these people.
Yeah.
And one time I was lost in Mexico with another actress that I'm not going to name. And I've created a rivalry that she doesn't know about.
Right.
That I hate her guts. Because she almost got me killed in Mexico. But other than that, it's great.
So my question, though,
that
I'm curious about, normally if you see Trekkies at conventions, they can be super decked out. So are people bringing cosplays on board too?
There's a full costume contest one night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so every night is a themed night, and usually it's Star Trek. It could be, I don't know, there's always a party, a bikini party. It's rises from it's a planet of pleasures and whatever. So there's always kind of that night, but then they do a formal night. So people have the Star Trek, but it's Star Trek formal. So it's the really fancy Star Trek uniforms. And then every year they do a Q's costume contest, and Q is the guy that could do he could shapeshift into anything. So there's a huge contest, and they do best, they judge it in front of everyone. It's done out in front of everyone. There's best Star Trek, best other universe. They do a holodeck contest or a night where holodeck is where they could, and I only know this, I've never watched the shows, but they could go into that and go into any universe, not a universe, but it creates their own reality. I know on Next Generation,
reality
they went to the holodeck to be in the 1920s gangster stuff. I think it was just a way for the actors and directors to do something new. So in that case, you'll see a lot of crazy crossover. Here's a Star Wars half Darth Vader, half Picard outfit.
That's cool.
And people though go all out.
It's so fun.
Bonkers.
I'm just thinking about the logistics of packing all of their cosplay to get onto the cruise ship.
4 or 5 bags of stuff.
Wow.
Of suitcases full of stuff. But they love it, and it's so much fun. And then I always tell this story too, is there's another actress who she'll actually be on next year, so I haven't seen her in a while. But they do a vow renewal. So you can get married, remarried, quote unquote, and one of the actresses or actors will do the pronouncement.
Is it a group vow renewal?
It is, because I don't know if you have to pay for it, but it is limited because they do it in a room. There's only so many people, but usually people dress pretty nice, or they wear their classiest Star Trek uniform. And she'll do a big officiant of the vow renewals, and then we'll do photos of everyone. In those days, we would do photos with the officiant. Now you just get a photo after.
Okay, each couple?
Yeah. But so we're doing the photos and going through, and she's great. And then we're done, and there's one guest left over, and she was a little talkative and a little too nerdy. You could tell she was just pushing a lot of bound, like she just wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
And I could tell just from dealing with, this kind of situation for a while that the actress was kind of like, and she can't leave. There's no one to like steal her. She's got nowhere to go. She's on a cruise ship.
She can't get in a car and go away.
She doesn't have an assistant there to be like, oh. So I just kind of could see her like, I need help. So I walked up to her and I was like, Miss, fill in the blank. I'm not going to say it. I was like, hi, I'm so sorry to bother you, but we need you for the next shoot. And she was just like, I'm so sorry to the guest. I have to go. And like I kind of escort her out. And of course afterwards she was like, oh my God, thank you so much. Fast forward to like 4 nights later, and this cruise, my wife was on there, and it was that Rise's party night on the deck, so everyone's just hammered drunk, and I'm working, and she sees me, and she's like, Jacob, and she was so drunk, and she gives me a big hug, and then kisses me right on the mouth. Like, not like was trying to, she was just like, I love you so much, you saved my life. And I was like, my family's here, calm down. Like, she's right there. Let's do this later. Like,
oh my goodness.
So that's the weird, wild stuff
yes.
that happens on the Star Trek cruise. And there's also an 80s cruise as well. It's the same thing, but with 80s and rock bands and people from the 80s. Same ideas, same costume contests, still wild. 80s cruise tends to be a little bit older, and they get really drunk. So the Star Trek...
live in those heydays.
Yeah, the Star Trek doesn't have a drink package, and you have to buy one if you want.
Okay.
80s is included.
Oh, jeez.
No, I'm sure the price is high.
Right, it's probably included up front, but
these are all now people my mom's age, just pounding, and they're just dropping left and right.
Oh, man.
Just old people puking and passing out everywhere.
I know we talked about this when Amanda was on, but I did one cruise for this same entertainment company, but mine was just the traditional jazz cruise, and let me tell you, it was a very different demographic.
Much, and just think of jazz and think of 80s and Star Trek. It's just completely different.
Completely different. And they didn't do anything other than jazz.
They're there to fall asleep in the main theater listening to jazz.
Like every room in the ship. It's just jazz. Just jazz. And I felt bad because it was Ryan's first and only to this day cruise. I think it was 7 years ago now, maybe even 8. It was a long time ago. But I was like, this isn't a good representation of what it's like to be on a cruise.
I'll tell you what, though, the thought of a jazz cruise right now sounds fantastic, as opposed to the Animal House party that it is, these cruises where it's just nonstop. And of course, we're right in the middle of it.
Yeah. Yeah, the only they had comedians for the evening entertainment some nights. Okay. So Alonzo Bowden was on the ship, and so he did one night where you could go play blackjack with him or something in the casino. So Ryan and I were the only two to show up. I showed up to photograph it, and then Ryan was the only guest that showed up.
Whoops.
So, or at least for the time that we were there, maybe once we left. But so Ryan played cards with Alonzo Bowden.
See?
Yeah, it was a very different tempo of everything.
And
so
ours, they just don't stop, man.
No costume contests. No vow renewals. No.
Everything you can think of, and it is nonstop stuff. Mm-hmm. From those big things to small trivias to panels. Obviously, lots of panels of they'll get the whole cast of whoever's on from Voyager, that ship. They'll put that cast and do a Q&A or do a panel of that into breakdowns of individual people. Mm-hmm. Karaoke hosted by.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, we might have started at the highest note.
Beat that.
Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about, it's not that the event itself was that wild, but I'd never done anything like it. So this was one of the first weddings that was filmed for the Disney Fairy Tale Weddings TV show. And back when they first started the show, which I've never watched any of the episodes, so I only know what happened on my side. But back when they first started, they were using actual booked weddings.
The first season was, or whatever they call the seasons, it was
Yeah.
Because I did one too, but I'm not going to stop on your...
It was... So my couple, like, they had booked their Disney wedding. They picked out whatever they wanted, and then they were approached, and they said, hey, like, we'd love to film your wedding day. And then because they were getting filmed, they were getting all of these, like, big upgrades
Correct.
and, like, crazy things happening. So I don't remember what the original plan was, but we did the first look outside of the Grand Floridian, or outside of the wedding pavilion. But then the ceremony was at the China Pavilion. And then the reception was at American Adventure. And the couple met playing in a rec hockey league. And so as, like, the biggest surprise of the day, they had them bring the Stanley Cup to the reception.
All right.
Which...
That's wild.
Super wild.
Yeah.
Especially considering the rules around touching the Stanley Cup, and now you've brought it into a reception full of drunk hockey players.
I have a photo of the Stanley Cup somewhere, too, of me in the Stanley Cup. Same
really?
rules, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was lots of rule breaking, and the poor handler, like the guy, because there's
the guys with the white gloves?
Yeah, with the white gloves had to, like, shove people off from... They let the groom hold it, but then he had to give it back, and then things went too far. But what was wild was the fact that this was for a television show. So I've never been on a TV set in this way, like at this scale of production, right? Like, it's not like a local news show. Like, it's not like you're on the county's, like, board of director, or, you know, like, school board meeting that's being televised. Like, this was boom arms from all over the place. It was like taking... The one that sticks out the most to me was how many times we did the take of the bride coming down the aisle. Right.
That's what they don't tell you.
Yeah. And it was crazy because, you know, the officiant is up at the front, and then the PA or whoever would come up and be like, okay, now I need everyone to stand and clap and cheer and look back over your shoulder like you're looking at the bride. The bride wasn't even here yet. So we did, like, one take just of them looking at her. Then we had her coming down, and then they made her go back and they made them do it again so people could cheer more. I definitely walked in the path of the boom arm and, like, just narrowly missed getting clocked in the head. Because that would've been awesome. Thing is, this was their real wedding. Yeah. And
you still had to shoot it like a real wedding.
And we had to shoot it. We had to deliver real wedding photos. Mm-hmm. So me and the other, I can't remember, I think I might have been second, and Chris Weirdo was lead.
Shout out Chris Weirdo.
I know. And so, you know, he and I are still trying to photograph this without showing all of the TV equipment, right? Like, we want them to still get their photos because, like I said, this was always their real wedding. They booked us before this all started happening. Right. So
you were definitely on one of the first.
Yeah, I want to say it was like second or third. I don't know what order they were put out, but in terms of, like, filming time frame. The other thing was then the TV show had a separate photographer. Yeah. And that was the photographer that was meant to be on screen. So, again, the couple wasn't getting those photos. No. So when she's taking pictures of them, like, there was a lot of, like, fighting for the couple's time and attention. And then, like, when we did have time for newlyweds and the guests had all get sent to cocktail hour and no one cared about what we were doing anymore, then they were pulling the bride and groom separately to film their reaction. So it was like, okay, first look, reaction. Family photos, reaction. Ceremony, reaction. And so they just were constantly talking to the camera, which it just didn't work. It made it so hard. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was a big reason for why they switched to where following seasons they weren't couples who planned on having a wedding. The couples, like, went into it. Yeah. I don't remember if there was a contest or they had to apply.
In the future ones, they took real couples at first, and then they were given, like, you can pick out your dress, but here's 5 dresses that you get to choose. You can kind of pick your ceremony, but, like, these are where we're telling you to go. And then we're going to throw Olivia Newton-John in there, even if you don't know who that is. So it was that, and then it eventually became into straight models. Oh. The last season they did was just models, because a lot of these brides and grooms, and probably rightfully so, complained because they didn't really get the wedding of their They didn't get a wedding.
Yeah.
They chose, especially this first group. And that's why I actually stopped after I did one. I said, I'm not shooting them.
Well, I also only shot one.
Yeah.
But for a very different reason. Again, this was their real wedding.
Yeah.
Right? And so we still only had one chance to get those initial real reactions.
Yep.
So we did the first look up on Picture Point right outside the wedding pavilion, and the groom was set up at Picture Point, and then the bride was walked out to him. Now, there was me and Chris, who were the ones getting the real photos for the couple.
Shout out Chris Weirdo.
Then there was the marketing photographer.
Yep.
Who was wearing a crop top and mini ears.
Yeah.
And she was the one allowed on TV, and we weren't. And I was like, this is not appropriate. But anyways, and then there were the guys with the cameras.
Yep.
And then the production managers. Like, there were a bajillion people. But we all made a plan to where everyone could be happy with their angle for the groom's first look. No one can fake that.
Yeah.
We have to all get it right on the first try. We all have our spots. And then one of the production managers, as soon as we started rolling and the bride started walking up, she came and stood right in front of me to to talk, to direct everybody. And so I just tapped her on the shoulder and I went like this. So I had this tiny little window that I could shoot in. And then she called my boss and said I was too bitchy and I couldn't be on any more of them. However, I had laryngitis as well, so I literally didn't speak to her. My only interaction was because I didn't have a voice. But anyways.
You dodged a bullet anyway.
Yeah, I mean, especially when it was not what the couples wanted going into it, like, I really did feel for them, and I don't know how much they got to enjoy.
They didn't at all.
Because everything was so scripted for them. I mean, they got to have some time, but like I said, every single activity they did, like the Stanley Cup came, and then they had to get pulled outside of American Adventure to be interviewed. And it's like, that's got to be exhausting.
Correct.
On what's already an exhausting day just for a normal wedding.
They should have never used like regular guests to start it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like when they started going into that, like, hey, you basically can apply to be on it. That was better because you know what you're getting into. But when they just said like, hey, you're getting married already. You want to do this? On my wedding, not only did I have all the same issues you had, but they had regular video too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So think of that.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Like they hired videographers on top of the whole film.
Because they're not going to get they don't know. They're never going to get that film.
No, they're only going to get
they'll be able to look at
DVR on the episode.
They'll get to watch Disney Plus they'll have to, buy Disney Plus for the rest of their lives to see that episode.
Oh my gosh.
Same issues, same marketing photographer, same just so much butting heads. There was nothing magical about the wedding at all. Because it was a TV shoot, and that's fine. And that's why I know they switched to just models, because then they could film it like a TV shoot and not worry about delivering photos and all the other stuff.
All right, well, you had a TV-based wedding too, didn't you?
I did. It was kind of the same thing, but mine was a live wedding, Magic Kingdom, on Good Morning America.
Oh.
This was like 2019, 2018. When did Prince Harry... Which prince got married and it was a big deal?
I mean, they were both a big deal, but recently?
No, which one did the photo on the staircase that was like their engagement photo? Was that the...
I mean, Harry and Meghan were most recent.
Which one's Harry?
The younger one.
The one that looks like Ron Weasley? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was whenever they got married. It was this photo. Okay. So they were kind of like spoofing off that.
Oh.
So a couple won, if I remember correctly. They got to do a live wedding. Like they got married legit in the hub, right in front of the hub. They built a stage in front of it in Magic Kingdom, live on Good Morning America.
Was it pre-park?
No.
It was during park hours?
It was way during park. It was like 9 a.m., 10 a.m.
Love that.
Yeah. Well, they wanted that. They wanted all the stuff. But so again, though, they hired... Well, Disney threw in myself as the photography for your wedding, but then it was still a live TV production, so I still had to try and deliver all these photos while a real TV production, and not just a TV production, a live one, which changes everything. But a couple days before, though, we did an engagement session at UK, because they wanted to recreate that photo.
Oh, okay.
And I had Good Morning America camera guys following me around. That was fine because they weren't live. They were just filming me to shoot.
And you were meant to be in it.
Correct.
And it was.
I was on Good Morning America for a brief second where they shot over my shoulder, the couple, and I tried the best as I could to recreate that staircase photo, which you'll see mine versus them. I mean, UK has a couple of stairs, but there's only so much I could do.
It's not a palace.
But the couple was very sweet, though, because they knew going into it, like, this was it, but they were still doing a full reception. They were going to go back home. But it was, so I got to Magic Kingdom, I think, at 2 a.m. So I actually went the day before. We did a full rehearsal.
Oh, my gosh.
That was pre-park, but we still, like, here's the boom arm. Like, we had all the lighting set up because this is where it's going to be. This is where you need to stand. Like, there were so many managers and planners and everybody there and, producers. So then the morning of, I got there at 2 a.m. and we did getting ready in the Cinderella Castle Suite. That's where she got her hair and makeup done. I believe she spent the night there.
Okay, that is a very small space if they also had cameras in there.
Yeah, it was very more like that stuff was more just quick, getting some B-roll that they'll never use, but they had it. There was not a videographer team.
Okay.
But like even my getting ready was very simple of like click, click, click. But then she actually got ready in the Bibbidi Bobbidi boutique, which by the tile murals, which I don't think is there anymore.
No, it's got its own.
Yeah,
it's not.
So remember when it was in the breezeway?
Yeah,
that's where we did it at. And her dress was in there, and I was like, oh, if you remember, they had these little ledges where the kids' dresses were. So I took one of the kids' dresses off, and I was like, I'll put a dress up there, and I hung it up, and this thing was heavy. And then they were like, oh yeah, that's a $10,000 dress, and I'm just like, yoink. I was like, well, it looked great. Again, I have the photo. And then from that, it became it was like, it was commercials. So it was like, she got in the carriage and it was live getting in the carriage down by the train station, and then pause. And then here she's coming down, and then they wouldn't cut, like that was live, but we weren't live because then they would go back to talking about whatever's going on. And then for like the 5-minute time they had, then it was her pulling up, walking down the aisle. Yes, yes, I do. Kiss, some pyro, done.
That's wild.
And then I had to do family photos and more newlyweds, but now it's 10 a.m. and there's full guests everywhere, even in the gardens on each side. I was like, okay. And that was it. There was no reception. There was no nothing. Never saw them again.
All right.
But yeah, I was on Good Morning America for a brief second.
Very cool.
Yeah, I don't think you saw me during the live event because,
Well, they were trying not to.
Yeah.
Well, and it's it's so nice that you even got to have a rehearsal, because I kind of wish I'd had one for mine, because I did, I'd never been on a set before like that with like that advanced equipment, and I had no idea where the arm was moving when, and it was kind of terrifying. And as a second, you're always doing like the extra roaming around in all the weird places, right? Like I wasn't down the center aisle. That's where Chris was. So
shout out Chris Weirdo.
Shout out Chris Weirdo.
I will say though too, they lit that thing because they lit it for a live even at 10 o'clock in the afternoon. So they had the giant cans. They had 30-foot scrims. I didn't have to do my light. It was the best Magic Kingdom photos I've ever taken because they were shaded, but then completely lit and filled from 9 angles with giant. And I was just like, this is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. For hours, it was in China, but it was at night, and they lined the whole pathway with all these candles, and then they had the whole thing lit. So the hard thing though was getting how we like to try to get parent faces, they weren't lit, and then we couldn't use lights.
Correct.
Because we couldn't be detected in the episode. So
and that's why we shouldn't be there if it's for a show.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have one more, not wedding related.
Ooh.
Not at all. So I was second shooting for our friend Courtney, and it was
shout out Courtney.
For a law firm in town. They throw big parties for their clients.
I'm not gonna say it, but can I guess which one?
Yes. And so they have a history of not always telling Courtney all of the details of what's happening at the event. And they actually shouldn't say that. They tell her the details. They don't tell her, like, the big things. So it was Christmas time. It was, like, sometime in December. And so we show up. We say hi. Like, we get the general lay of the land. And Courtney was like, okay, well, is there anything, like, big that we should know about? Like, anything happening? They're like, no, nothing out of the norm. Just, like, get party stuff. We'll have some people on stage. Like, you know, just usual. And Courtney's like, okay. And I think I was set up at, like, a step and repeat. And Courtney was doing roaming for at least part of it. And so Courtney's like, they always do this though. Like, I guarantee you there's going to be something. And so we go back, we ask the girl again, like whoever our contact person was. And she was like, no, you guys are good. Like nothing out of the ordinary. And she wasn't doing it to like be deceitful either. Yeah. Like she just was like, no, I don't think there's anything big. No, you guys are good. Just do your usual thing. We're, okay. And then I see, Mrs. Claus, like, in the corner. And I was like, Courtney. And so we go...
The actual Mrs. Claus? Or an act?
I said
like
it's weird and wild.
Okay.
No. And so, like, we're, like, looking over, and Courtney goes and checks in. She's like, is Mrs. Claus, is Santa coming? And they're like, oh, yeah. So, once Flo Rida is done on the stage, then Santa and Mrs. Claus are going to come up and give out toys to all the presents. And Courtney's like, what?
That's a statement I did not think was... Please repeat that statement again. Once
Flo Rida gets off the stage, then Santa and Mrs. Claus will come up and give out toys to all the kids.
Yep.
They just, like, didn't think it was important for us to know that Flo Rida was performing. Oh, no! Well... Dang it.
Who's going? Flo Rida? Like Florida? Flo Rida?
Flo Rida was performing.
So Santa got top billing over Flo Rida.
All the Christmas presents did.
Okay.
But just in general, none of those three people were mentioned to us as part of the event.
Also, my first question is Flo Rida, is his base... children that want presents from Santa, because I don't feel like those two mix.
It doesn't matter.
It really doesn't.
It doesn't matter.
But that is something you could have told me.
Right. Like, should have been top.
Do we have the same events? Because I have also photographed this law firm, and he also had some random bands just show up, not telling anybody.
It's kind of his thing.
Yeah.
Kind of his thing, but like we should know, and we should know when, so like we're ready. What if Courtney was in the bathroom when he came out on stage and we missed it?
Santa or Flo Rida? Which one?
Both.
Which one is worse to miss, Santa or Flo Rida?
I don't know.
Like what year Flo Rida though?
Oh gosh, 2016, 2015.
So
it's been a while.
So it wasn't like peak Flo Rida. Like when was Spin Me? Like.
Okay, you look this up while I go try to figure out why this camera stopped.
Okay. It's just Flo Rida hits. No, Flo Rida. Yeah. He was high, like low, right round. Those were all 2008, 2009. So I was right. So he was, you know.
Oh, yeah, not like, yeah.
He wasn't peak, and he's still, you know, he's still Flo Rida. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Flo Rida's Flo Rida. So, Flo Rida. But Santa's forever. Don's camera. Notice how mine's still working good.
You want to know why?
You didn't format your camera, did you? Oh my god, these are all going to be tight shots of Jacob now.
It's fine. It's fine.
Our not photography corner is going to be how to properly set up cameras.
Let's format this one, huh?
This is embarrassing.
Yep.
This is very embarrassing. You spin me right round, baby, right round. Oh, we're going to get copyright strike on that. The light's not on.
I didn't start it yet.
Oh, okay.
Professionals. I don't know what you want me to say.
You're embarrassing me in front of all of my subscribers.
Okay.
You have 1,000 jobs and you couldn't do this. I literally just show up and make jokes. You do everything and you couldn't do this one thing.
Not this week. Oh, I'm sweating so much. It's very warm.
We can all tell. What did you shoot this week?
Okay, so this week, so I did video. I did videography for a wedding.
You did.
I've done like little baby clips and stuff, but like this, I actually filmed the entire ceremony.
This is a photography podcast, for the record.
And edited it as like the reason was the bride had rewritten the words to a song, and one of her friends was singing the song during the ceremony, and the whole thing was a surprise to the groom. So I was already second shooting this wedding, and then it was like a last minute, oh, can you guys also do video for the ceremony? And so that's how it all came about. But I was super happy with it. It went pretty well.
I believe your first feedback from a videographer was, it was, quote,
it's not great, you should quit. But it's fine. It's fine. No, I think it turned out well, and I think they're going to be happy about it. Then I had an event at Give Kids the World. It was like a bunch of executives had come into town, and they got to play carnival games with all the kids, and then they got to go on a tour of the property, and I love Give Kids the World, so it was fun to be out there. For
those that don't know, that don't live here, what is Give Kids the World?
Give Kids the World is essentially a resort that was made for any kids that are visiting an Orlando-based theme park as a wish. Yeah. So if they're in the Make-A-Wish program, or like locally there's the Wish program with New Hope for Kids, like anything like that, if they've been granted a wish to come to Disney or Universal or SeaWorld, they can stay at Give Kids the World for 7 days and 7 nights as part of their wish. And they have everything there.
They do.
They get to stay in a little villa. Their meals are provided. There's entertainment.
There's also their setup.
Ice cream shop.
If you need more care than you could do like in a hotel room, they have that. Mm-hmm. So like if you need a special bed, if you need whatever you would need to make your visit easier, they can provide it there.
Yep. And they've got like movie theater, mini golf. So their wish, I think, comes with like 3 days in the parks, maybe, at least for Disney. Yeah. And then those other days they can stay at the resort or do other things. Yeah. But, they can go swimming, they can watch movies. So, and they get first run movies, just like on the cruise ships. So if it's live in the theaters, it's live at Give Kids the World.
I mean, I would hope so.
I mean, but that's still cool. Like
exactly.
You could just have access to like what is playing, what's already out of the theater.
You should be getting access to movies that like Avengers Doomsday.
Yeah, that's true. And then I had a freelance wedding that was a reschedule from one of the fall hurricanes that we had. And then I started so I'm doing headshots for the entire Maitland Police Department. So I had day 1 of that. We have several days. And I got to do the canines.
And I helped you with that on the edit end.
You did.
Critique. Some good critique.
It was really good. So I knew I wanted to do the dogs, and I was just going to drop in a background, like do an actual headshot of each of the dogs. But then the handlers wanted a picture with the dog, and I was like, okay, no problem. I'll just use like a blank wall, not a big deal, and then like clean it up later. Except there were no blank walls in the room that we had access to. Like there was furniture and like
jail cell.
No, but there were those like soundproofing panels on some of the walls, like. So I had to replace everything. Everything.
You did a good job.
But
I gave a couple of little pointers.
Yeah. I sent them to Jacob for approval, and he.
Because you do need to do that after. Sometimes you stare at an image way too long.
Yes.
You need a second pair of eyes.
And you've like lost the ability to discern like what looks good or what doesn't, because you know what it originally looked like.
Correct.
You need someone to look at it fresh with like no.
And I like the thing of like, tell me what's wrong with this image. And usually they find something else, and you're like, okay, great, because that's not what I was talking about.
Yes.
You're like, well, his head is weird. Like, okay, well, I was talking about the floor that I freaking photoshopped in. So if you didn't notice that, then we're good.
Right. And actually, I did those headshots. So So they changed their shifts at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. So I did the headshots from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. so that we could catch people coming off the night shift and starting the day shift.
That's what they want after all that.
I know. I felt bad, but they were fine about it. They didn't seem too bothered. But then I had a wedding that day at Estate on the Halifax, and the groom's side was very rambunctious before I even got there. And when I went over to see the girls, they were like, "Oh, how are the boys doing?" And I was like, "Oh, it was fine. Like, we got through it." Like, they already had their cigars out. They wouldn't put their cigarettes down. They've got drinks in their hands. Like, I had to, "Okay, guys, please, can you take your sunglasses off? Please, can I get one nice formal picture? And then we can do whatever you want." But the bride was like, "So tell me, how much did it seem like an episode of Jersey Shore?" I was like,
I always like trying to be like, how much do I tell her? We're like, they're great. They're drunk.
Right.
They're pantsless, as opposed to like, it was fine. Don't worry.
I'm always like, "Oh, we got everything we needed. They did great. They're having fun." But yeah, so that was funny. And then I had a family that I've worked with for many years, and their second child just turned 1. So we did their 1-year-old pictures, and then family pictures too. So that was my week.
That seems like a busy week.
It was a busy week. Don't worry, there's some really slow ones coming up.
Yeah. I photographed a convention at the Dr. Phillips Center and our performing arts. The Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center is downtown Orlando. It is this state-of-the-art performing arts center. There's 3 different theaters in there. There's like a main theater that you have your Broadway shows, a very small like intimate theater, and this newer version, this theater in the round that's for like symphonies.
Oh.
That just opened like a year or 2 years ago. It was always built like with it. Remember how it was like, if you've seen the theater, like the whole building, it's supposed to be this long and it has this like jut out right in the middle, but they didn't build the theater in the round right off. I don't know if money was an issue. So like it was always like, I hated looking at it because it was it was off center.
It wasn't symmetrical.
But now since they've added that, I'm like, it's a really cool theater in the round, though we didn't shoot in there, but I've been in there where like, it's meant for symphonies where you can sit and the acoustics are something like the best in the world or the country. Like I learned a whole thing about there's a sound rating system of like letting in noise, and it's one of the highest rated in the world. So they put so much concrete and soundproofing in it that the walls are like bazillion feet thick. So you can't hear anything from the outside world. So the acoustics can be perfect.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very
but anyway, above that, I was talking about right in the center, remember there's that family room? It's one of the families, I don't know, the Publix family room, who knows? Some Orlando family.
Whoever paid for it.
But it is literally a 3/4 glass ceiling, floor-to-ceiling glass.
Beautiful, beautiful view of the construction on and around I-4.
And downtown when it's there. And
where they've crumbled the venue that was on Church Street. You can see just the crumpled.
It's fine.
It's fine.
But anyway, it's a very cool venue. I've never shot a wedding reception there. I know you can get married there or have your reception there, but this was a convention where it was for a company that had hired a NASA astronaut. And this guy was also like, he's very well spoken. So he did actual, walkings of space shuttle stuff. He fixed the Hubble telescope, and then he used that, and then he was actually on Big Bang a couple of times, the Big Bang Theory, and he was there like, resident, so like he knows how to make money afterwards. And now he does speaking gigs about teamwork and what it was like being on the space shuttle, but he's really well spoken. And so it was really just a kind of like a, meet and greet, talk to each other, then a speaker. And then they told me what his speaking fee was, and I was like, I'm in the wrong business. So if anyone would like to hire us to speak at their convention, we'll be significantly less. Like, it's a steal.
And you can get quality entertainment like this.
And you get 2 for the price of 1. So after seeing that, I was like, that's what I want to be.
Yeah, right.
I just want to be a speaker. Of course, he has a book and everything, but I mean, he had a cool job.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then I also had a wedding out in Melbourne at one of the hotels. We shoot out there a lot. You've probably been there, the Crown Plaza at Melbourne. It's just a funny venue because where you get married at is super cute, and it faces kind of the ocean in the corner. But to the right, if you're facing it, is literally the first floor of guest rooms with no balconies. So there's always some shirtless dude like, I get married! Like, you're just like, they're not in the photo, but they are right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when they walk down the aisle, so when you're shooting them down the aisle, though, the back is literally the bar, tiki, restaurant, everything. So, and it's always packed. So it literally is like, there's nowhere to, when they come down the aisle, that shot, there's 100 people watching in the background. Again, probably shirtless.
Yeah. I felt bad because I did a Cocoa Beach wedding. Well, it wasn't Cocoa Beach, Cape Canaveral beach wedding not too long ago. And they are like, I don't even know what they're doing, but they have this giant pipe running all along the beach. And when I say giant, I mean the diameter of it is probably like 3 or 4 feet. And it's just sitting on the sand. So like the ceremony itself was taking place between that pipe and the ocean. So when I was facing them, I didn't see it.
No pipe.
Family photos, like it was all fine. But those photos coming down the aisle.
Pipe.
Giant rusty pipe.
Big old pipe.
With all of the orange webbing and the flags and the danger signs all over it. Beautiful moment of the bride and her dad and stepdad walking her down the aisle. Giant rusty pipe.
And then I also got to, something I haven't done in a while, I actually assisted someone on a convention.
Greatest thing in
I
the
know.
world.
I was like, wait, I don't have to shoot? I just helped set up lights, set up a background. It was for a step and repeat. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is fantastic. I need to assist more. I need to speak and assist more.
Jacob's new career aspirations.
So if anyone's looking for those two things, sign me up.
All right. Well, we've been chatty Cathy's today.
We have.
We are going to wrap things up by talking about...
Introducing Flo Rida. Here he is. Surprise. Take it away.
All right, so this is going to be Jacob's first episode that he edits. So go ahead and figure out how to insert Flo Rida.
I'm going to be mad when he shows up. First off, I edit all the episodes, so...
Yes.
What are we talking about?
We're going to talk about our top 3 favorite book series.
Oh my god, this is definitely a Dawn.
No, this is a Jacob idea. This is
I didn't really mean it.
Roll the tape back to when we were getting ready. This is a Jacob idea.
This is our top
3 book series that we've read. Honorable mention. Go.
All right. God damn it.
49 minutes of counting, Jacob.
There's a series of books. Listen, I like books, but the comic books count?
Sure. That's reading.
It is reading. Oh, I didn't think about like graphic novels.
Ooh.
No, that's got to be something else. Something
else.
No, just books.
Oh, no, okay, just books.
Just words.
Just books. Okay.
Just words. My honorable mention, there's a series of books called, I don't know what the actual series is now, but I always call it the Red Rising series. If you've ever heard of Red Rising, it's a sci-fi. But I know they've made I read the first 3, and they are fantastic. I know now there's 7 of them, and I got kind of too much. But the Red Rising books, they even made a board game out of it, which is pretty good. Shout out board games. So that'd be my honorable mention. It's a book takes place on the moon, not the moon, Mars. And they're all, you're born into a class system of you're gold or you're red or and it's just about a kid who's trying to infiltrate to see and of course there's intrigue and Game of Thrones and everyone dies and everyone's killing each other and.
I think my mom might have read that series.
It's good.
I'm going to have to ask her.
Red Rising.
Okay, my honorable mention is from when I was a kid. And it was Nancy Drew.
I was just joking.
I loved Nancy Drew books when I was a kid.
It's like Beverly Clearly?
No.
Ramona and Beezus?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, Nancy Drew was a detective.
Oh, that's right. She was the female Hardy Boys.
Yes.
Okay.
Essentially. And she had her friend Ned. Ned liked her. But she was too busy for Ned.
Is this honorable mention or is this number 1?
It's an honorable mention.
Oh, okay.
But I remember getting the books as a kid, and I think my Aunt Karen had even given me some of her original copies of some of the books, and yeah. So childhood favorite series. Number 3.
All right. So there was a brief period in my early high school, late 8th grade. I was really into. I love Star Wars, but I was really into the Star Wars. What's now called the extended universe or the whatever they've
the non-canon.
But it was canon at the time,
right.
And I will die on that hill. That's the stuff where Luke and Leia. No, sorry, Luke and Leia. Han and Leia had 3 kids. That whole series, like that whole stuff. I was reading all of them. And I'm going to give 2, but there were 2 that were really good. One was the series called Heir to the Empire, which if you know the Timothy Zahn book, that trilogy was one of the first ones to come out, and it was amazing. It actually introduced Grand Admiral Thrawn, who they've now, since he's the blue guy, who they brought back in like Ahsoka and things like that. Ahsoka? Yeah. Which one was he in? I know he was in he was in one of the cartoons, but he was just brought back in one of the TV shows. Was it Ahsoka? I think it was Ahsoka. Was it Mandalorian? No, it wasn't Mandalorian.
I don't know. One of them.
I'm going to get killed in the comments for that. But anyway.
Actually, please, anyone, comment. We're happy to have them.
What makes me mad is that series is so good. If they had just copied that as the, like, and filmed it, 20 years ago as the sequel trilogy, it would have been so good. But alas. And then there was also a series of books called the Rogue Squadron series. It was called X-Wing. Was about a group of pilots, and there was a couple of the main characters like Wedge Antilles would show up, and he was leading it, but it was all new characters. And literally it was a series of like a team as the X-Wing Rogue Squadron flying through and going on missions and saving stuff, and it became a trilogy, then became 4, then became 6, and there's like 8 books. They got kind of janky at the end, but the first 3 to 4 books are phenomenal. So those are my Star Wars series days.
Your number 3.
There's also ones called Jedi Academy that was really good. That was a series. All those books were really good. I had them all. And I was really into Star Wars. And it was canon at the time. Just for the record.
Yeah.
Okay. That was number 3.
So my number 3... My number 2 and my number 3 are kind of interchangeable. I could mix them up. I'll say number 3 is Hunger Games. Just because... Well, I don't know. It was just like one of the first, as like an adult series that I dove into and like couldn't put down and just wanted to keep reading. Because when I was a kid, I was a really big reader. And then I kind of like fell off from reading when I was in school because I hated, like I was already reading so much just to keep up with like AP English and reading these big, gigantic books. I know. Reading these big, gigantic books that I was having a hard time getting through and like there was no time to read for fun. So Hunger Games was one of the ones that I was like, oh yeah, this is really fun. And then to like see it adapted into a movie. I am behind though because they just released a new Hunger Games book like last week. I
read the original, but I haven't read any of the other ones. I thought the books were okay. They were fine. The movies were fine. But it didn't really grab me, but I did read them all. But they were fine.
Okay, well I like them.
You would.
Me and like millions and millions of other people.
My number 2 is, and I feel like I have to just because of nerdness, but it is Lord of the Rings. I do feel like as a series, it's phenomenal. The whole story is incredible. They're a little hard to read. I actually prefer the Hobbit book is my favorite, just Tolkien book. But since we're doing series, I'll say Lord of the Rings.
Okay. You'll lose your nerd card if you don't.
Yeah, kinda. Do I actually want to read it again? But, it's still very good. In one of the cases where the movies are, like, so much better. The extended version of those movies I could watch all day.
I've watched the movies. I've not read the books. That's a big endeavor for me to take on because I don't always do the best with straight fantasy.
And it gets a little dry.
Yeah.
Tolkien loves giving you about 30 pages of a mountain, describing a mountain. Yeah. And then 1 page of, and they fought. Yeah. What? That was the best part. Why'd you skip it? It's good. So, I'll say Lord of the Rings.
Okay. My number 2 is Harry Potter. I was very late to the Harry Potter game. I didn't read it until I was out of college. It was the year that the 7th book was coming out, was when I started reading. And it was the 7th book, and I think the 5th movie, I think Order of the Phoenix, came out that summer too. But I was home from college, hadn't started working yet because I was going to be a teacher. So I still had the summer off. And so, looking for something to do. So I started reading Harry Potter, and I read all 7 books back to back to back in less than the 10 weeks I was off. I was dreaming about dragons.
All right.
But when you get to read something, it's like binging a TV show. Like when you get to fully immerse and read everything all the way straight through, it was just a unique experience that I probably won't really ever be able to do because I didn't have anything else. Like, I didn't have anything pressing going on taking my time, so I had a lot.
Life was so much better then.
So much better. I had a lot of brain energy to contribute to reading Harry Potter.
Gotcha.
And, yeah, it's just a magical story.
A magical story. And now you can go to a theme park land.
I know.
Someone let us into Epic Universe, please.
Pretty please.
My number 1 is also Harry Potter. And it's a weird thing because as a series, it's probably my favorite series of all time. Are they any of my favorite books? No.
Oh, well, yeah.
But as a series whole, it was the same thing. I didn't read any of them, and I'm usually the guy that, if it becomes too popular and I'm not on the train of it, if I'm not on the engine, I'm like, I will never read it. But my girlfriend at the time, took me to see Azkaban. I hadn't seen the first 2. I hadn't read any of the books.
You just jumped right in.
And Azkaban is probably my favorite movie. Because that's a fantastic movie. And I was like, this is good. So we went back and watched the first 2, which the movies were okay. But then I was like, all right, I'll read the books. And then I think at that point we're on book 5. And I read them all up into that, and they were very good. And then so much so that I remember when Deathly Hallows came out, I was working midnight shift at the 911. And I got off I think that night I got off at 3 a.m. And I went to the worst Walmart. And I know this because I took 911 calls from there all the time. Even though I had it, we had it pre-ordered from Barnes & Noble to, pick up that day. But since it was after midnight, I was like, I bet Walmart has it. And I drove out of my way to that Walmart on the way home, and they had it. And I grabbed it at 3 a.m. And I had no business being in Walmart. In a part of town I had no business being in at 3 a.m. and bought Deathly Hallows.
Well, when I was reading, the guy that I was dating at the time, his brother...
Shout out that guy.
His brother went to the midnight...
Shout out that brother.
Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
Because I think they had a midnight release at the Barnes & Noble where you could pick it up at midnight. And so he picked it up and then started reading it and read straight through all the way until he was done. And so I had to wait, that day, I didn't get to read it as soon as I was ready because he was still reading. Yeah. So I had to wait. I was borrowing all of his books, so I had to wait till he was done. But,
So, yeah, Harry Potter is my number 1 as a series.
And then my number 1, I already talked about. Remember when I was complaining about the books that weren't all the same size in the series? So it's The Bergman Brothers and Sisters by Chloe Lisa.
Have we collabed with this lady yet? Because we've given her so much free. The least she could do is at least give a shout out to the podcast. Shout out Chloe. What's her name?
Lisa.
Chloe Lisa.
Yeah, so
my
it's
favorite
just
author. She's also my number 1.
It's a 7-book romance series, and each book is about one of the siblings. Their stories, not with each other.
Okay.
With the look.
I was just saying.
Your eyeballs went
the way you
bigger.
said it, you're like, it's all about siblings and love. I was like, and I'm more interested now.
Anyways. All right.
That was number 1. Look we did it.
We done.
An hour long.
It's beautiful.
It's probably less than that. We'll have to cut out about 20 minutes of you not formatting a card.
We're going to keep it all in.
Good.
Why not?
Yeah.
It's real life.
Bye.
Bye.